Before we begin this story, take a deep breath and prepare yourself for a wave of emotions that you never saw coming. What you are about to read will take you through heartbreak, loyalty, and the silent pain hidden behind the smiles of your favorite stars. If you love deep emotional stories that reveal the unseen side of fame, then pause for a second, hit the subscribe button, and stay with us till the end, because what happens between Wang Yibo, Xiao Zhan, and Shen Yue will leave you completely speechless. It began on a quiet evening at the edge of a fading sunset. The filming set was almost empty, except for the sound of footsteps echoing through the corridor. Wang Yibo stood there, lost in thought, his eyes fixed on the horizon as though he were trying to find peace in the distance. Xiao Zhan noticed him standing alone, his usual calm replaced by something heavier, something unspoken. There was a silence between them, not of anger but of memories, the kind that words could never explain. For months, rumors had been circling that something emotional was unfolding behind the scenes. Fans sensed it, the crew whispered about it, but no one truly knew the truth. Until that night. Yibo had been carrying a secret, one that tied deeply to Shen Yue, someone who had once brought laughter to his most difficult days. She had always been the quiet storm in his life, the one person who could make him smile even when the world demanded perfection from him. Xiao Zhan had seen it before, the way Yibo's eyes softened whenever her name was mentioned, but he never thought it ran that deep. The cameras were off, the lights dimmed, and the only thing left between them was truth. Yibo turned to Xiao Zhan, his voice trembling in the still air. "There's something I should have told you a long time ago," he began, his tone heavy with regret. Xiao Zhan looked at him, confused but patient, waiting for the words that would change everything. Then came the whisper. It was soft, almost like a confession not meant for the world, a single line that carried years of emotion. Whatever Yibo said that night about Shen Yue was so powerful that it silenced Xiao Zhan completely. His face changed, his expression frozen between disbelief and heartbreak. For a moment, he looked away, trying to hold back the storm inside him. Shen Yue's name echoed through the air, not as a rumor, but as a revelation. The next day, everyone on set noticed the shift. Xiao Zhan didn't speak much. He avoided eye contact with Yibo, kept his distance, and threw himself into his scenes with a quiet intensity. Yibo, on the other hand, looked broken, as though every line he delivered came from a place of pain he could no longer hide. Behind the cameras, Shen Yue was unaware of what had been said. She had been working on a separate project, completely oblivious to the emotions unraveling between the two men. Yet somehow, the universe seemed to tie them all together again when the producer of a new drama decided to cast the three of them in a project that would bring them face to face. When Shen Yue arrived on set, she felt the tension immediately. Yibo's smile was polite but distant. Xiao Zhan's greetings were warm but brief. The air carried something unspoken, something she couldn't quite name. And as the scenes played out, the emotions on camera became too real. There were tears that weren't scripted, silence that wasn't planned, and moments where both Yibo and Xiao Zhan forgot they were acting. One night, during a break, Shen Yue found Yibo sitting alone in the dressing room. His eyes were red, his script untouched. "You're not yourself lately," she said softly, sitting beside him. "Did something happen?" Yibo looked at her, and for a second, he wanted to tell her everything. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, he gave a small smile and said, "Some things are better left unspoken." Those words haunted Shen Yue for days. She noticed how Xiao Zhan avoided her gaze too, as though she carried the weight of a story she didn't even know. The tension grew until it could no longer be ignored. During the final scene of their project, the script called for an emotional confrontation. Shen Yue's character was supposed to walk away from Yibo's, while Xiao Zhan's character watched in silence. But what happened during filming wasn't in the script. As the camera rolled, Yibo's voice cracked as he spoke her name. The emotion in his tone was raw, trembling, and real. Shen Yue froze mid-scene, sensing that this wasn't acting anymore. Xiao Zhan stepped forward as though to stop her, his own emotions rising uncontrollably. The director, sensing something powerful, didn't yell cut. He let it play out. In that unscripted moment, truth bled through the fiction. Yibo's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Xiao Zhan turned away, unable to bear what he was witnessing. Shen Yue, confused and emotional, whispered, "Why does it feel so real?" After that day, things were never the same. The footage went viral when leaked clips surfaced online, showing the trio in a scene so raw that fans couldn't tell where the acting ended and reality began. Hashtags exploded across social media. People began piecing together clues, trying to figure out what had happened between them. Weeks later, during a live interview, a fan asked Yibo about that moment. He smiled faintly and said, "Sometimes, silence says what words cannot." Xiao Zhan, when asked the same question, simply replied, "Some truths change the way you see people forever." And Shen Yue, when finally confronted with the rumors, gave a mysterious smile and said, "Not all stories are meant to be understood. Some are meant to be felt." That was the last time the three of them ever appeared together publicly. Fans still talk about that whisper, about that one quiet confession that changed everything. Some believe it was about love, others say it was regret. But one thing remains clear: it was real. Too real for the world to ignore. In the end, their silence became louder than any explanation they could give. And as time went on, the story of that one whisper continued to live in the hearts of millions, a story of friendship, heartbreak, and the cost of truth in a world that watches every move. So the next time you see Wang Yibo's distant gaze, Xiao Zhan's quiet strength, or Shen Yue's soft smile, remember that behind the fame and the lights, there are stories too deep to tell, and emotions too heavy to share. Because sometimes, it only takes a whisper to change everything. The night had deepened, the air outside thick with the kind of silence that follows after emotions have reached their breaking point. Inside the dimly lit room, only three figures remained: Wang Yibo sitting quietly near the window, Shen Yue still frozen in disbelief, and Xiao Zhan standing with his back to both of them, his hand trembling as it rested against the door. The whisper was still hanging in the air. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but the weight of those few words had shattered something fragile between them. Shen Yue could feel her heartbeat echoing in her ears, a sound so heavy it almost hurt to breathe. She wanted to ask Yibo what he meant, she wanted to stop Xiao Zhan before he walked away, but her voice had disappeared somewhere between confusion and heartbreak. Yibo looked down, his voice calm but trembling. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone," he said quietly. "But I couldn't keep pretending that what I felt wasn't real. Not anymore." Shen Yue took a slow step forward, her eyes searching his. "You shouldn't have said it like that," she whispered. "Not in front of him. Not when you knew how he'd take it." Xiao Zhan finally turned around. His eyes were glassy, filled with something deeper than anger, something like betrayal mixed with exhaustion. "You think this is just about what you said, Yibo?" he asked. "No. This is about what you've been hiding all along. About what you both have been keeping from me." Shen Yue shook her head, tears glistening in her eyes. "No, it's not like that. You're twisting it." "He only—" "Don't," Xiao Zhan cut in. His tone was low, sharp, filled with unspoken emotion. "Don't make excuses now. You had every chance to be honest. Both of you did." Yibo's hand tightened around the edge of the window frame. He didn't move. He didn't defend himself. He simply stared at the reflection of Xiao Zhan and Shen Yue in the glass, as if trying to capture the moment before it shattered completely. The silence that followed was unbearable. Shen Yue's heart pounded as she stepped closer to Xiao Zhan, her voice trembling. "If you walk out now, everything we built ends here," she said softly. "Is that what you really want?" Xiao Zhan's expression softened for a second, just enough to reveal the storm inside. "You think it hasn't already ended?" he asked quietly. "You think a few words could destroy what was strong if it was ever real?" He turned back toward the door. The sound of his footsteps echoed like a slow farewell. When the door finally closed behind him, the room fell into a silence so complete it almost felt like the world had stopped breathing. Shen Yue collapsed onto the couch, covering her face with her hands. Yibo remained where he was, still as stone. "I didn't want this," he whispered, almost to himself. "I just wanted the truth out there. I couldn't carry it anymore." The truth he had whispered moments earlier now replayed in Shen Yue's mind, not a confession of guilt, not a betrayal, but something raw, something honest. He had told her how he always felt that Xiao Zhan never truly trusted him, that every act of kindness came with hidden questions. But there was more. He had admitted something no one expected, that his heart, though loyal to friendship, had once been quietly drawn to Shen Yue. It was a truth that neither of them had wanted spoken aloud. And yet, once said, it changed everything. Hours passed. The city lights faded. Shen Yue sat there until the morning sun began to spill through the window. She stood and faced Yibo again. "You know he won't forgive us easily," she said softly. "I know," Yibo replied. "But sometimes, truth needs to destroy something before it can rebuild what's real." Weeks later, the three of them met again, not on purpose, but by fate. The set of a new project brought them all together. Cameras rolled, but off-screen, the air between them was heavy with unspoken memories. Xiao Zhan kept his distance, his eyes colder, his words short. Shen Yue carried quiet guilt in every glance, while Yibo hid his unease behind professional calm. But one afternoon, during a break, Xiao Zhan approached them. His voice was low, almost reluctant. "You were right," he said to Yibo. "Maybe I didn't trust you because I was afraid of losing something I never truly owned." Yibo looked at him, surprised. "You don't have to say that," he began, but Xiao Zhan raised a hand. "I'm not saying it for you," he said. "I'm saying it because I realized silence doesn't heal anything. It just delays the pain." That simple statement shifted something. For the first time since that night, all three of them felt a quiet sense of understanding. Not forgiveness, not yet, but the beginning of it. As filming continued, their chemistry on set became stronger, more intense, more real, because it wasn't just acting anymore. It was truth bleeding into art. Every line they delivered, every look they exchanged carried the weight of what they'd been through. And though Xiao Zhan never spoke about that night again, the way he looked at Yibo and Shen Yue had changed. The hurt had not vanished, but it had transformed into something else, a deep, painful respect for the honesty that had broken them and somehow rebuilt them. By the time filming ended, fans noticed something different in all three. Their performances felt raw, deeper, almost haunting. What no one knew was that behind the scenes, three people had found closure not through words, but through silence, tears, and the unspoken truth that sometimes love, loyalty, and trust can't exist without heartbreak. As the final credits rolled on their project, Shen Yue stood outside the studio, watching the sunset. Yibo walked out beside her. "He'll be okay," Yibo said quietly. Shen Yue smiled faintly, though her eyes glistened. "We all will," she said. In that golden light, they watched Xiao Zhan leave once more, not in anger this time, but with a quiet nod that spoke more than words ever could. And just like that, what began with a whisper ended with understanding, silent, deep, and unforgettable.